Good evening. I must first of all apologize for being inappropriately dressed for a Pacific function. But if you go back to your mobile things that you carry around, you probably see my colleagues still in Parliament. So I will not be addressing any fellow cabinet ministers because they're not here, they're in Parliament, and members of Parliament. I address the distinguished elders and leaders of our faith and our communities, leaders of Pasifika Communities University and the Toda Peace Institute. And I'd like to say that I have a lot of respect for Andi Tawa for appearing this soon after a very probably stressful 3 or 4 weeks. And we thank her for being with us tonight. And also apologize that I'm wearing a salu while she is still in black. Esteemed editors and contributors, collaborators, scholars, partners from across the Pacific, members of the Diplomatic Corps, welcome, Your Excellencies. You following me around or are you here on duty? My fellow Pacific leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. If my address will be too long, don't blame me. Blame those that have spoken before me. But again, we acknowledge the Suva and the people of Vaai of Suva. We pay our respect to him and his generation of chiefs and those that have led and gone, and also those who are emerging as leaders. We acknowledge their enduring role within the Vanua and its stewardship. We are honored to stand on this land through their guardianship and generosity. When I came home last night, I asked my nephew, "Sa tenovi, nandaru sebu niya ba tumai?" Because every year I make sure I send my sebu to the Tusuva. First harvest of yam every year. So if you don't plant now, you may miss the first harvest festival next year. So that is listening to the Pasifika, listening to the changing weather patterns of Pasifika. And this morning, I got to read the Roman Catholic. I'm not Roman Catholic, I'm Wesleyan Methodist, but I follow their daily devotional. And my cousin I thought was going to be here sent this to me. Sandra, I pray that you have a productive and safe week and a great day tomorrow at PCU. I'm praying for a successful presentation. I responded to her and said, "Good, everything is pointing at creation, and all human activities must lead to preservation, conservation, and restoration of God's intention." I sent it to her this morning. All she said was loud and clear. I'm also very honored to be here, to be given the honor of launching this very important project, Climate Change in Pasifika Relational Perspectives. I commend Toda Peace Institute Dr. Upolu Lumā Vaai, and the editorial team, contributing authors from across the region, and the Pasifika Communities University Press for bringing to us this very important work and also bringing it to fruition. This publication marks a significant moment for Fiji, the Pacific, and our engagement with the world. It reflects a growing confidence that Pacific peoples must shape how climate change is understood and addressed, offering a timely contribution that is grounded in our values, in our relationships, in our lived reality. I used to be a constitutional destroyer and then became a very able constitutional architect. And in my searches for the various constitutions we have tried to bring into being for Fiji, a professor from the United States came and spoke to me and he said, "Your constitution must be autochthonous." I looked for my dictionary and I couldn't even spell the word. I said, "What's that, Professor?" "It must grow out of the land." It must grow out of the land. The solutions and everything you design for Fiji, you design for the Pacific, must come out of the land and the ocean and the seas of the Pacific. That's what this book was all about. There is no dispute that climate change remains the single greatest existential threat to our survival in the Pacific. Our regional leaders have underscored this fact as the region's greatest security threat. Yet we know that climate change is no longer standing alone. It sits at the center of a wider convergence of global pressures affecting development, security, health, culture, and social cohesion. In this context, narrow or technical responses are no longer sufficient. And this is not the first time you're hearing it today or tonight. I'm saying it again. And this volume is timely. It's offering a distinctively Pacific voice that brings together science, policy, and the relational values of our people. As we respond to the accelerating impacts of climate change, it is important to reaffirm that our leadership is grounded in values that have long guided our people. For Fiji, climate change is not experienced abstractly. It is encountered through our relationship with the Vanua, with the ocean, with our communities, and our faith. While science, technology, and evidence-based policy remain essential, they cannot stand alone. Pacific societies have never understood life solely through technical or rational lenses. Our responses to crises are shaped by spiritual responsibility, communal relationships, and moral obligations. These are elements that give meaning, direction, and durability to action. This volume affirms the effective climate responses that must be led by communities, recognizing that resilience lies not only in adaptation, but in sustaining identity, sustaining values, and accountable leadership across generations. For many years, global discourse on climate change have been framed through a limited set of perspectives that did not fully reflect how Pacific peoples understand, experience, and respond to change. This book makes an important regional contribution by widening that conversation. It touches on climate mobility, which is one of the most significant areas of discourse in the region, as it is a shared reality. Addressing it requires approaches that uphold dignity and protect identity. Movements of people, whether within countries or across borders, must ensure that it does not sever people from their vanua, but carries it with them, demanding responses grounded in specific values of care, reciprocity, and collective responsibility. By bringing climate science into dialogue with Pacific relational wisdom, this volume highlights that resilience is deeply rooted in our knowledge systems, challenges dominant global frameworks, and affirms the Pacific as a source of insight and leadership, not merely a region of impact. This moment calls for redefinition of leadership in the Pacific climate conversation. For too long, dominant narratives have privileged a narrow range of perspectives, while other ways of understanding climate change have remained marginal. The consequences of this have been profound, not only for research and policy, but for the people and communities who experience the impact of climate change most acutely and comprehensively. Pacific leadership does not reject science. Climate science remains indispensable in empowering us to better understand the scale and urgency of the challenge that we face. However, leadership in the Pacific context recognizes that science alone is insufficient. Effective responses must also be guided by the values, the ethics, and relational responsibility that shape how Pacific societies understand life, continuity, faith, and well-being. We also have heard that tonight. This volume affirms the need to hold these dimensions together. Scientific evidence provides clarity and direction, while relational knowledge systems and faith traditions provide moral purpose and guidance. One explains the crisis, while the other shapes how we choose to respond. Leadership lies in ensuring these are not separated, but integrated in a whole-of-life approach to climate change, to peace, and to security. In redefining leadership, the Pacific asks not only how to address the climate crisis, but how to safeguard the conditions for a good life and a good society in a changing world. This is the contribution the Pacific brings. Leadership that is firmly grounded in coherence, responsibility, and respect for the interdependence of people, place, and future generations. This volume also speaks powerfully to the global community through a vision the Pacific has long advanced. The vision of the Blue Pacific as an ocean of peace is not a symbolic aspiration, but a deeply held Pacific understanding of how peace, security, and prosperity are sustained. It reflects a worldview in which the ocean connects us rather than divides us, and where stability is grounded in relationships between peoples, nations, and generations. The concept of an ocean of peace reminds us that peace building and security cannot be separated from culture, from faith, and systems of governance that are rooted in place. In the Pacific, resilience is not imposed from the outside, It is rather nurtured from within through stewardship of the ocean, respect for the land, and responsibility for one another. These values have enabled Pacific societies to endure uncertainty and change long before climate change entered global vocabulary. As climate change increasingly reshaped global discussions on security and stability, the Pacific offers an important perspective. It calls for approaches that are preventive rather than reactive, relational rather than transactional, and grounded in long-term responsibility rather than short-term interest. Peace is the understanding. In this understanding, peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but the presence of conditions that allow communities to live with dignity, continuity, and hope. When I presented the concept, the UNGA, and I spoke in 2023, I said I was going to come back to the Pacific and propose it. And when I went back last year, we had already adopted it. And the example I used for peace in the Pacific is when a young mother puts her baby to bed in the evening, she will not be worried about the tide that will come at midnight, high tide, that will not be high enough to swamp the mbure and endanger the baby. That's peace. And that peace vision carries with it a responsibility for all of us. It calls on the global community to listen differently, to recognize that those most affected by climate change must also be recognized as partners in shaping solutions. It calls on policymakers to design responses that honor identity and community, not just efficiency. It calls on institutions and partners to work alongside Pacific peoples in ways that strengthen rather than displace local knowledge and leadership. This book reinforces that call. It affirms that the future climate action, peace, and security depend not only on what we do, but on how we choose to act together. If the world is to move forward in a time of climate convergence and uncertainty, it must engage with the Pacific, not merely as a region at risk, but as a region offering insight, leadership, and a vision of peace rooted in relationships. In conclusion, this volume stands as a compelling testament to Pacific thought, Pacific leadership, and Pacific collective voice. It brings together rigorous insight, cultural wisdom, and forward-looking perspectives to frame a distinctly Pacific response to climate change, one that is anchored in stewardship, shared responsibility, and enduring regional values. Beyond articulating the scale of our challenges, it advances a strategic vision that connects climate action with peace, with security, and sustainable development. In doing so, it reinforces the Pacific's role not only as a region of vulnerability, but a region of solutions, leadership, and innovation. It is therefore a privilege to formally launch this publication. Once again, we acknowledge the leadership of the Toda Peace Institute, Dr. Upolu, Lumā, Vaai, the editorial team, contributing authors, and the Pasifika Communities University Press for their dedication in delivering a book, delivering a body of work of such depth and significance. It is my hope that this publication will continue to inform policy, inspire Pacific-led research, and strengthen global partnerships. But more importantly, it should serve as a catalyst for action, supporting practical, inclusive, and sustainable responses to climate change that uphold the dignity, the resilience, and aspirations of the Pacific people. Nobody else.